Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Jug Dealers Podcast, where we discuss all things cannabis and lifestyle. Brought to you by the good people of 5A, and as always, available at jugdealers.net.
And jugdealers.shop. And of course, jugdealers.net is our landing page for everything we've got for any of the club stuff. Also samples. Always remember, whether you're commercial or a home grower, you can hop on there and request samples. We have you fill out a little grower's form, goes right to me. We'll get you that stuff taken care of. You just got to take care of shipping and handling. It's quite the deal. So don't pass that one up. With all that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning back in. Of course, we have my very good friend and fellow jug dealer, Gabe, back in the studio, back in the jug den. And what we're going to do is we're going to pick up right where we left off.
This is a fluid situation.
This is a very fluid situation because we're picking up on our schedule 3 episodes. We're literally picking up right where we left off. This is as on point and to the timing as you really could be on this stuff. This stuff literally
we were updating this episode this morning when we were writing.
I mean,
most of it was written, but being as everything actually trial started yesterday. So we had we got the news. Wanted to update. Why don't you talk about a little bit of what we had yesterday?
As of yesterday, the DEA is in a courtroom in Arlington, Virginia, deciding whether the rest of the plant is adult use, recreational, or the bulk of every legal market in this country. So basically, they're just trying to figure it all out. So at the end of the day,
like we've kind of said.
Yeah, like we said, well, here's the whole thing. Is it all going to follow, essentially, long story short, winnow that all down, is it going to follow everything else, or is it going to follow, medical? Is everything else going to follow medical into Schedule 3?
Yeah.
Or are we even going to go farther than that, which we'll get into?
Well, and here's the part no one's saying out loud. The government is supposed to be defending rescheduling.
Right, defending it.
But almost everyone they invited into that room is there to argue against it.
See, that's really weird. So they're there to defend the rule, but
and this is farther than we've gotten in any, so far, we haven't even been able to get this far.
Right.
So the fact that we've even gotten this far is a miracle unto itself.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, quite frankly, I'm a little bit blown away. And again, this is on point and on timing as you could possibly be, because this literally happened Monday. What was the day yesterday?
It was yesterday. It started yesterday.
Yeah, started yesterday. So we're going to break up into 3 segments today to really break this all down. So first, we're going to talk about what's actually on trial, because again, we want to make sure that we are specific about what part of the plant or what's going, or is it rescheduling, descheduling, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then why this hearing is built the strange way it is, right? So that's all part of one. And again, the whole strange thing is, why are you defending it and supporting it, and then also supporting it on the other side? That's like 2 supports. I don't get it, but we're going to try and figure this out. The second is, and this is pretty straightforward, and we talked about it before, the 280E payout, right?
Big time.
Which is the tax exemptions and things like that is standard in business. And then, what does, so what would a rescheduling actually do to the bottom line? We'll break that down a little bit. And third, why this whole hearing might not even decide the outcome.
We might go through all this and still might be like,
well, that was fun, right? That was a lot of tax dollars wasted, but we'll see. So again, show outline. What do we got going on, Gabe?
What's on trial, the 280 payoff, and why the hearing. It just might not matter. And we are going to wrap it up with what we consider the ground truth and kind of try and break this down, give you a little bit of timing, everything like that. So very quick update before we get into it, because day one, here's what's weird. This is yesterday's news. I mean,
right.
And when I say yesterday's news, I don't mean the colloquial yesterday's news. I mean, this is actually happening.
Yeah. No, they're right. I know sometimes, whatever. Here's the weird thing, or the way I look at it. It's like, was this already written before it started, right? Because even the way that you had the Schedule 3 with medical, and like, how are you going to do this 2-tier system? Like, how is this ever going to work? Mm-hmm. So we talked about this even in the first one. He goes, is this just the beginning of the landslide, right? Because there's no way just
to think there's not a bunch of puppet masters
logistically speaking
on the backside.
Okay, so I guess that's what I'm saying.
You know what I mean?
But everybody walked in the courtroom wondering one thing: would the DEA actually defend this rule, or just go through the motions? Which, historically speaking, they seem to have basically always just gone through the motions.
Well, they definitely did not just go through the damn motions.
No.
I mean, their own attorney stood up and said the government does not just propose rescheduling; it supports it.
Right.
Like what? I mean, did you see that coming?
I saw that not coming. That was definitely not on my bingo card. I know that when we put this together, I was definitely like, I read this and I went, wait. So you're saying their own attorney, because normally they'll basically just stay up and say that that they don't oppose it, which isn't saying supporting it, but getting up and saying you support it is an entirely different thing, and it is absolutely unprecedented.
Slide that down just a touch, right there, because ultimately, this is not about recreation. It's not about legalization. No. Regulation. Full stop. Regulation.
Regulation, which, as we were discussing, to me, basically means descheduling. That's not rescheduling, right? Yeah. So that beginning of the rescheduling with medical, again, is just
means we want money. That's what it means. Well, it means pay to play. That's regulation. Yeah, regulation means pay to play.
But I also think that there is going to be, maybe the only medical stuff that'll be relegated is stuff that's actually done through big pharma, which I'm not advocating for, by the way. But like as far as different extracts or things like that, as opposed to this full plant type consumption that we're doing right now, and then everything else is just under this cannabis umbrella.
It's funny. I had a bunch of buddies. Shout out to Rich's Reggie's, but I had a bunch of buddies reaching out to me. The last couple of weeks.
Right.
Hey, do I apply? Because they were medical,
right?
And they're like, "Do I apply? Do I apply?" And I'm like, "Man, I don't know, man. I don't think so."
Watch the episode, and we're still. How do you still not gonna know?
And it's funny because, I find it very funny how they put that deadline up till day of trial, and then they start out with this, and I guarantee that some people see this, and they're like, "Oh." Maybe I should have. I don't know.
Well, I mean, man, I'll tell you what. I mean, that whole thing, I came out of that episode that we did without an answer, even for myself, if I had a license of what I would do, Now I know certain states, they've already had to it's already been part of their deal. Isn't Michigan, don't you already have to sign up for the DEA on some level or something through it? Or maybe it's not Michigan.
I can't say I know.
Okay.
I can't
because I know that there's a couple states that you already kind of have to do similar stuff. So certain people
I know with Michigan, I'm pretty sure we're overseen by Department of Ag.
Okay, so there's a federal, so there's a federal regulation of sorts.
In states where you're going to be overseen by the Department of Ag, there is a different kind of oversight.
Right.
And again, I've discussed this on previous episodes as far as Department of Health, Department of Revenue, and
alcohol,
what I mean? So that definitely, and here was the surprising thing yesterday is they actually put an FDA scientist on the stand who testified cannabis is tied to fewer overdose deaths than alcohol or opioids.
Wait a minute, what?
And so
no way. But the fact
this is all shit we knew.
I know.
But it's just the type of thing where they actually, and and that alcohol is the withdrawal that can actually kill you, seizures and all, not weed.
Whoa. And now, obviously, we know this. This is common knowledge in our community. And this is stuff,
and you go to states like Pennsylvania, where Department of Health runs the show, and they've had a massive opioid epidemic. This is the way they got it passed in a lot of those states, was they were like, hey, this is the safer alternative, or this is going to help get people off. You know what I mean? So the fact that the feds actually have a doctor, and look, man, you and I have talked about it a lot. Deschedule, not, or unschedule,
off.
But I'm going to tell you, so far, the posture on this is looking somewhat different than what I was expecting.
Well, there's no doubt about that. And again, I didn't know if it was, look, again, none of this has been on my bingo card. And I completely believe that there are those puppet masters behind it that are, the story may have been written. We're just not able to read the whole book yet. Now, that being said, I do find it very, very interesting that the loudest voice in the room was actually not a reform group. Okay. Was not, it was actually, believe it or not, it was the head for Smart Approaches to Marijuana, which is typically on the other side. So they were actually the loudest voice out there. And it wasn't even a grower, because normally you're going to hear growers because they're going to be producers. Their lifestyle is tied to it, or it's going to be a reform group. Those historically have been the ones that have been on the other side saying, hold on, no way. It's actually the whole flip-flop, which I found to be completely interesting, right? And then we're watching the DEA actually make a case for safety.
Yeah.
Right? Told you that red pop was good. I keep.
Yeah.
So they're sitting here going, hey, we believe it's safer than these things that are readily available. And this is when we clearly have had a opioid epidemic that is ongoing. And that's been something that even Big Pharma has been sued over.
Yep.
So for them to actually get up and say, this is common knowledge in our community. This is common knowledge I would figure, honestly, in society for the most part. But to have it said they're under oath is really quite surprising and exciting in my mind, right?
Yeah. Literally the DEA was, defending it, and this is the same agency that spent 50 years locking people up over this plant and just argued it's safety.
Well, to call it surreal would be not enough, right? Because they've been lying through their teeth knowingly for a very long time. Now, again, those are also the group that will intentionally seed dissent and things like that. You know what I mean? We won't get too into that, but obviously we know that things have been proposed one way, and then years later, it's come out that, oh my goodness, that's not quite the way that the story was said to us, right? So sit with that for a second.
It's funny you talk about that with all the discussion about LSD and mushrooms and psychedelics in general, ketamine, and now
it's funny because I've been reading Michael Pollan's book on his book on psychedelics. Very, very good. And he's actually got the next one too, Your Mind on Plants, but that was an extension of the first one. But anyway, been reading a lot of stuff like that recently, and I guess the biggest part, don't pop the champagne. Yet.
Let's not get ourselves. let's not pop the champagne and get us ahead of ourselves, because it's just a hearing. It's just the beginning. This is going to take some time. It can go a lot of different directions. But let's talk about where we started back in April.
Okay.
Because the DOJ moved, sliced cannabis into Schedule 3. Everybody got all excited. FDA approved products and state licensed medical cannabis. Done. Effective. All right.
Well, that's what they acted like. But again, we sat here and we talked about how it was going to be an absolute logistical nightmare. How do you even do that? How do you say what part of your business is 280E? We also saw a lot of big companies come in and buy up medical licenses. We saw that happen very quickly, right, Gabe? Yeah. So these like big commercial, big money came in and bought medical licenses. So again, somebody knows what's going on out there.
There's been some shifting.
That's a nice way to say it.
Of finances and stuff like that.
But specifically in the medical world, where for the longest time, a medical license was, I don't want to call it worthless, but depending on what state you're in,
all of a sudden it became a thing. Yeah, now it's the golden ticket. You know what I mean?
And how do you know it's the golden ticket unless you got to be in the know?
And everybody needs to understand the rec market, the bulk use in the 40 plus markets out there, because of what is it, 25 medical and plus 40 for recreational, still Schedule 1. Yes. Doesn't change that, hasn't changed that, isn't going to change that.
No.
So, again, while this whole, the trials and all sound nice, it addresses the medical part of it. It doesn't address,
Well, we still have, ultimately, we have a 2-tier system that makes no sense ultimately. And it means that you've got the same plant, but 2 different schedules. And depending on what state has medical, doesn't have medical, has both, it's an absolute logistical nightmare. So all that's still in that Schedule 1 area. So this hearing on, good, bad, or indifferent, I guess, is the rest of it, which is basically whether all botanical cannabis, adult use included, moves to Schedule 3, which is what we want. Did I think it was going to happen this fast, or did I think that was going to be the argument? Although we did say, is this the beginning? Because it's like medical was the beginning of, in Colorado and California, and then the recreation.
The biggest thing,
it's just interesting.
The biggest thing though is just that we've seen this posturing for 10 years, where in our lifetime, the biggest move we've seen were Prop 215, medical and recreational started in Colorado. Shout out to Colorado. But other than that, those have been the big moves, and none of those, if you go to Idaho, you're still in trouble for all the things.
All the things.
You know what I mean? So
Don't go to Wyoming.
None of that has pushed the needle as far as this is now pushing the needle.
Well, and here's the other thing: the setup is what is the weird part. The setup's never been technically. And this has never happened. Technically, the DEA is the proponent, yet they've always been the opponent.
Yep.
So like that's, they're the ones supposed to be defending the rule. And when I mean rule, I mean the rule that cannabis is not for adult use, is not legal, is not reschedulable, whatever you want to say.
I'll tell you what though, if you look at the words DEA, and now that you look at it as going to Schedule 3, we're doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is drug enforcement agency.
I guess enforcement can go both ways, right? I mean, I guess you're not totally wrong.
You know what I mean? Like that. And yeah. And you and I we liked FACT.
Right.
FACT was the one that we chose.
Yep.
I'm still
the firearms, alcohol, cannabis, tobacco.
Yes, we're still about FACT.
We are still about FACT around
government,
here.
If you're listening, because we know you are. FACT is the way. Get rid of ATF and start FACT.
Okay. Hey, everybody. I did not want to interrupt the show. However, we need you to help us by taking your grow to the next level. Go right on over to jugdealers.shop and pick up some Slicium. Don't let bugs or a failed AC or a broken pump take your grow grow down. Get Slicium at jugdealers.shop. It is readily water soluble and uptaken immediately to thicken cell walls and reduce any and all abiotic and biotic stresses. Keep in mind, this is how we support the show. We are never sponsored. We are funded by you taking your grow to the next level. So to support us and your grow, head on over to jugdealers.shop and get yourself something real nice. Now back to the show.
Best tobacco.
Yes, we're still about fact.
We are still about fact around
Government,
here.
if you're listening, because we know you are. Fact is the way. Get rid of ATF and start fact.
Okay, man, this is happening. But you know what I mean? It's like, the only participants that are invited, are basically opponents, but yet they're all supporting the same thing. Again, the setup is very different and than it's ever been. And then the government's own two witnesses is a doctor testifying the medical cannabis benefits pain patients. Okay, so that's one of two. Yep. Okay, and the FDA official that we already talked about describing how the rescheduling recommendation was built. That's the whole That's the whole case.
This is rich. This is rich,
my friend. So, what do we have timeline wise, though, Gabe?
So it opened June 29th.
Yesterday.
That was Monday. Today is the 30th. We have more stuff coming through. Obviously, we don't know today's news. It's going to run through the middle of July. Yep. It's going to recess for the 4th, so they're going to take off that weekend. They're going to have a hard stop no later than the 15th.
So this is happening fast.
So this is happening right now. Tune in, dial into the news every day. We're probably going to have an episode after the 15th where we talk about what we've seen. But this is fast by design, people.
Yes, it is.
There's an executive order telling them to move expeditiously.
And that is the word that's used, by the way. That's the actual expeditiously.
It's a big word for some people, but it means quickly.
I like it. Yeah, it means now.
It means do it now.
Damn it. So anyway, what does it tell you that the agency now defending this rule is the same agency that spent 50 years trying to enforce it? Very interesting. But it's still, I still look at it
purely. It's very
with
rich.
Speed and efficiency. Thank you for breaking. And let's be honest, spelling is not Grambo's strong point. So very nice work back there, Grambo.
I like words.
I like words.
I like turtles.
I like turtles. So I still wonder, though, are they just satiating us? There's another word, right? Are they just satiating us, or are they just satisfying us? Are they going through the motions?
It's so hard to tell because ultimately, the two schedules split. Really on the exact, it's funny because
it's not possible.
I was somewhere last week and I hear this lady talking and she's like, oh, well, I smoke the medical weed. And I'm like, lady, they're the same. If you buy Blue Dream Medical and Blue Dream Rec, other than you paying more in taxes and possibly more in price.
Hold on, Gabe,
it is the same flower. I know. I'm a dirty dog.
Yeah, I'm a dirty old dog.
Now, granted, there are markets, you have like what Georgia's trying to do where they're trying to cap the THC and stuff like that.
Well, and again, here's the thing. What people also got to understand, and I guess for most of you, in fact, I know that the bulk of you out there understand this. There is no split right now in saying that medical has to be done in a GMP facility, for example, right? That all medical is done in some standardized type facility and recreational can be done with looser rules. That doesn't exist.
In Michigan, they convert medical flower to rec.
Well, that's what I'm saying. No. And that's what I'm saying. And I remember when I used to go up to the dispensary, Organic Alternatives in Fort Collins. Shout out to Organic Alternatives. It was like there was the bar on the one side, and there was recreation. Oh, sorry,
You're like, what's different? They're like the price.
You just turned around to the other bar.
It was like back in the day when they had the smoking and non-smoking sections. It's just a curtain between them.
Yeah. Well, the curtain was an upgrade.
Well, that's like when you go to the.
It used to just be.
That's like when you go to certain location. That's like when you go to certain airports in Europe, like the smoking section. It's just like a roped off area, but it's like it's no different.
It's like
at least in Munich they have like the room,
or it's like a Joe Camel room. I've been in a couple of them, but I only.
That's right. It does have the big camel.
Yeah.
So funny. You're like it's Camel sponsored.
Camel sponsored.
So let's get into the 280E thing because it is important for a lot of folks.
And there is a bit of a catch out there too.
Yep. Again, we've discussed it. And for those of you in foreign countries, because we know there's a lot of our foreign listeners who are friends, and thank you guys very much. Basically, with the government, if you had any other type of business where you experience loss, or you buy things, or you do whatever, you can write these things off for tax.
Yes.
Basically for your taxes. We can't do any of that in cannabis because it's federally illegal. But if you're a grower and you're standing in your flower room in Michigan, and why does this part change things for me? 280E.
Well, and I mean, the whole thing is, this has always been unfair, whether it's the banking or the taxing. And it's always been, in some ways, it's I don't know. It feels like a way to help keep this industry down, and it's definitely made it very difficult to operate. Why can't I write off my toilet paper and you can't? You know, you got to understand these are operational things.
Well,
we're talking about.
Crop loss is a huge one.
Crop loss is a big one.
A huge one. A farmer loses a field of corn. He can write it off.
And here's the thing: the beautiful part is if adult use goes, if the rest of everything, like we say, because right now the only people that can do 280E, which for the record, until medical went Schedule 3, it's nothing in cannabis was able to. So they were able to do it. If this does go to Schedule 3, it goes away for everybody permanently. And that would be the single biggest line item change in economics of this industry. So this is actually a big game changer. And I do believe it's something about, coming out of the shadows into the light kind of feeling it, like, wow, finally some legitimacy.
And and not for nothing, man. Dabbers up.
Dabbers up.
Not for nothing. It eats operators alive, dude. When you have, when you're running a $30-40 million a year business and you can't write any of that off, in which normal business, if it was 10%, we're talking $3 million.
Well, here's the real stakes, right? In a lot of markets, the median store is operating at a net loss before any type of expansion, purely because of 280E, pulling back those deductions a normal business takes for granted. If you lift it, and a lot of operations go from underwater to viable, literally just like that, those percentages matter. That 10% is massive. Those are truly what's at stake. But what is the catch, Gabe?
The catch, and we're going to keep this show on, is Schedule 3 is not legalization. It's still a controlled substance, highly controlled. Highly controlled. When we're talking Schedule 3, where are we talking, like Percocet, stuff like that? Big
pharma is still, very much
it's still you going to, and again, there's going to be a lot of questions on the backside, because anything else you get Schedule 3, you're not getting at your local homeopathy store. You're getting it at the pharmacy.
Remember when we even talked originally about that? How I came out of it and going, whoa, rescheduling is actually more control.
Yeah.
That, you know what I mean? And more big control by big entities, right? And it also means, well, flat out, as long as it stays on the schedule, it means that you are always going to have, unless they change it to fact, which we hope one day they will. Yep. But as of right now, you will need a federal, we're working on it, a federal DEA registration operating inside the Controlled Substances Act. So it's still within the Controlled Substances Act. It does not authorize interstate commerce. And that was one of the biggest things.
And look, Ohio's already done it.
Yeah.
Ohio's made it so that if you get caught with, now again, I'm not sure how they prove it. I don't know. But if you get caught with out-of-state flower, that's a fine.
So pull that back up real quick, because I just want to look at. Okay, so these are your Schedule 3 type stuff, right?
Those are big words.
Those are big words. These are a lot of testosterone. Okay, a little. Okay, right on. Ketamine. All right, a little K.
Yeah.
Now we know. So again, very, very controlled things. So and here's the one thing that in our research, this is the biggest thing that I really pulled out, because I've always, again, scheduling. It's still scheduled. It's on the schedule. No interstate commerce. Banking. Have we said anything about banking? We've said nothing about banking. Still on the schedule.
By the way, just anybody watching, we are not your legal advisor.
Oh, we should have said that right off the bat.
Yeah, we should have said it right off the rip. But we are not lawyers. We are not doctors. We are not advisors. We are two dudes with a podcast. With opinions.
Shout out to what's our legal shout out show?
Legal News Network. With,
Legal News Network.
Former active attorney.
Right, but he does
also,
have knows his way around the law.
Don't get your legal advice from ICANN THC either.
No, don't get it from anybody.
Get a lawyer.
Get a real
That's
lawyer.
not a dig, by the way.
No.
It's just.
I'm sure he would tell you the same thing.
We're definitely not who you're going to want to talk to. But he does have, honestly, he'll be having, I'm sure, a breakdown of this as well. And he's got some great, good friend and a great activity over on his channel as well. And it does help you keep up on that kind of legal cannabis type news. We like to do a little bit of that, but that's definitely not our, not our whole thing. But until it's off the schedule, banking, interstate commerce, things like that, all of a sudden, because I think you're growing in a great place, for example. Like, I think if there was interstate commerce, I think Michigan is still very much on the docket. I don't think that Palm Springs, California is, for example. I don't think.
Although we've discussed just like,
but
just like that part of California is where they grow 80% of what we eat.
Yeah,
there may be certain parts of the country where a large part of the bulk flour gets grown.
Well, that was kind of my point. And I'm not even saying, I'm saying, and one of the reasons in Michigan forever, for the record, shout out to all our Michiganders out there.
Shout out Michigan.
Shout out. I love Michigan, by the way. But anyway, you think about where it's at geographically. And remember, you and I talked about this a long time ago.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, and it's like, so they you know, they've been a production zone for a long time, and they still, as far as just export and stuff, are, you know, in a pretty good place when it comes to that. But there's no doubt that, you know, you only grow strawberries for the most part commercially in 2 states, Florida and California, because that's where it makes sense. You know, whether it's, you know, the price of power, whether it's labor availability, whether it's price of land, all these different things.
It could be the fucking sun.
Well, that's the other thing. I forgot to talk about that one, you know. As we always say, light and environment, those are the top, okay?
Because you're not doing it in Vermont. Why? Because there's no fucking sun there.
Buffalo, New York. Get out of here. Okay. So anyway, again, no interstate commerce. Everybody hears federal rescheduling and they get real excited, and they picture everybody, you know, trucks getting filled up in Michigan and going to wherever to Illinois, just like we were talking about. Yes, that has happened for many years, but you still won't see it legally happening right now. No. Here's the thing. It's a margin story. It's not a map story. Reality is that's still where we're at. We're still not talking about descheduling. It's re.
You know, I was in a big meeting with this group last week, and I said, I think where we got fucking spoiled is the margins were huge. We were in a crop where the margins are huge. And, you know, I was keen
those aren't real horticultural margins.
You know, I was keen to point out to these guys that are good friends in Holland, you know, kilo of tomatoes, it's 10 cents a kilo is your profit.
Well, if it's going well, it could be less.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we've gotten used to these inflated margins where even if you're making $100 on a pound, it's still way more than 10 cents a kilo. And so, and that's where there's this kind of melding of, hey, we're coming into the real world commodity market, not our crop is super special. Now, again, you make your crop super special by growing limited amounts and running out. I say that to people all the time.
But now we're down to business 101. So that's different. That's a different thing. That's a different thing.
Yeah.
Right. And you know, the reality is, Gabe and I just got absolutely blazed before. We're far enough past in. We can speak a little more openly, but you know, on off the shelf, small bud, $50 an ounce commercial weed. It was obviously coming out of this. But I mean,
hey guys, today's show is brought to you by jugdealers.shop. You want to grow the best cannabis possible, head over to jugdealers.shop and get something like our Ruby Fulvic. It's going to give you more efficient uptake on your NPK. You could also try our Winter Frost to increase secondary metabolite uptake and improve your cultivar's flavor and phenotypic expression. Or finally, grab some Cocoa Blocks to save time and money. This is how you can support the show, and it keeps us going. We're never sponsored. We're 100% funded by you taking your garden to the next level. Head over to jugdealers.shop and get something to help your cultivation thrive. Now, back to the show.
Shelf, small bud, $50 an ounce commercial weed. It was obviously coming out of this. But I mean, I'm looking at it going, wow. You know, and by the way, you ain't gonna find this everywhere. This is some of the best, if not the best commercial, you know, that I've seen. But there's good commercial out there. You know, shout out to the Russian Assassin boys out there in LA, bro, crushing it. I like our guys in there gave us some samples out of there. I was, you know, running 1,000 lights.
Shout out to the homies at Peninsula, dude. You know, those guys are
Trichome Jones. He's been doing it forever.
Cranking out the fire.
So
dude,
it's not that it's not possible. It's not the every day now, but believe you me, everybody is working to that point, and it is going to be different type margins.
Yeah, there's going to be, just like anything, man. There's going to be mass produced steak. There's going to be Wagyu. There's going to be all the different.
Here's
things,
part of the
all
problem.
the different levels. Whatever money you want to spend. You know, we can all drive cars. You can buy a Kia. You can buy a Ferrari. They both.
Here's the thing, though. One of the things where people got a little bit tripped up too with cannabis was that, you know, hobbies usually cost money. Hobbies don't make you money, and a lot of people were doing both at the same time. And whether that's, and then of course some people's hobby is just consuming it, having nothing to do with growing it, right? Well, that costs money, right? So they're actually spending less money than they have been historically to have that hobby. And here we are, the growers are paying more money for their hobby. Anyway, funny story. Here we are.
Let's talk about why these hearings just might not even fucking matter.
Yeah, well, that's where it's a little bit frustrating. So here's the contrarian close, if you will, because I don't want anyone treating July 15th like a finish line. It is, I mean, it's as much as another
record, man. It's just,
it's precedent. It's precedent.
Yeah.
It's legal precedent. That's how this stuff works.
They go through this whole process and get to the end of it and be like, I still don't know what we want to do.
And I feel bad even saying this, but newsflash, there's already a parallel fight in the D.C. Court of Appeals. So petitioners filed something like 13 separate legal grounds challenging the April order. So it's not
they're
like
waiting in the wings.
Yeah, dude.
They're waiting in the wings.
Just with
and that's and that's the way the system works.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
So the grounds is a statutory authority under the Controlled Substances Act, treaty obligations under the single convention, as we talked about last show, which was something that I was not aware of until that.
Yep.
But again, now you're even talking about just the fact that we've told all these other countries we won't allow and support illegal drug use.
And we don't even know. And honestly, we don't even know.
But what we can do.
But we don't even know the Attorney General had the power to even do it. This way.
That's also true. Right. And I had no idea. Now, granted, we are not your legal experts.
No one has any. The real is no one has any fucking clue.
No one has any fucking clue. And honestly, the deepest part is the whole Article 2 argument, right? Whether the administration law judges presiding over this stuff are even constitutionally structured, given their removal protection. So this is all even bigger than cannabis.
It's way bigger than weed.
Like it's so, I don't know. I mean, again, a lot of this stuff, trust me, legal jargon, we're learning right along with you. But one of the companies is driving this challenge put it best. You can hold a hearing, okay? But you can't out hear a constitutional problem. So,
and not for nothing, man.
Fuck all.
When you historically appoint constitutional judges, they're gonna uphold the Constitution regardless of what you feel, conservative, liberal.
Doesn't matter.
Those types of judges. That's why.
That's the line they hold.
That's the line they hold.
That's the line they hold.
And look. We're coming up here. This episode is dropping right before our 250th anniversary of being a country.
This is true.
And thank you to our founding forefathers for actually putting this piece of paper together that does defend our freedoms, does defend what we can say.
It's what we've got.
How we can live.
It's what we've got. It's what we've got.
So we'll see. We're going to see what happens with this because this is
But even things like this, no matter what, especially being a constitutional issue and whatever else, all these hearings, it doesn't really change shit like that, right? And even on this fast track, even on this order to be expeditious, right? A final rule probably doesn't land until late this year, but I don't even believe that.
If we're lucky,
and really, or early next. And here's the thing: that's if it's uncontested. Which we just told you just on that April motion alone, there was at least 13 different motions to against it. So let's be honest, we know it's going to be longer because it will be contested.
Yep.
So this is a milestone, and I think it's a really important milestone, but it's not the finish. So I think if you're an operator, you should really. I mean, I don't know. Do you think an operator should actually plan around this timeline, or is it just? Again, not. I mean, I don't know that anybody has an answer necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, oh man, as I've said the whole time, reality is you just got to buckle up and hold on and pray that your facility is set up well enough for when the regulations comes through that you do not have to spend so much money augmenting your facility that it's up to snuff. And, opening up to the reality is that it's probably going to cost more money to grow weed with more regulation /testing / everything else.
Right. Well, and here's the other thing, right?
Get robots.
And let me try and bring it home a little bit for the people who actually do grow for a living, like you do, and like a lot of our listeners do, right? Because this is where like some of this noise is actually going to meet the job. Here's reality: you still have the whole state layer there. Yep. It doesn't change. None of that changes. None of the fact of the all the other stuff aside from medical. Being Schedule 3, that's the only thing that's actually changed. All this other stuff is just noise and discussion, and even that supposedly could be struck down.
So reality is, the final message would be, do you, dog? Like, you, dog, and just keep doing what you've been doing. Stay in your lane.
And understand that while these things are being argued about, the machinery that actually keeps going where you're at is not stopping your day to day.
Keep an eye on things. So keep an eye on things, and tune in to the Jug Dealers because we're going to keep giving you guys updates because we think this is probably the most important thing that's going on in cannabis right now.
Yes.
And arguably this is one of the most important things that has happened in cannabis in our lifetimes. And
remember, the state machine keeps grinding regardless of what the federal drama is going on out there. That's the part that operators really can't afford to tune out while, so again, you got to pay attention with what's right in front of you, but understand that this stuff is going on in the background.
This is in the peripheral.
Yes.
This is in the peripheral. You want to make sure you have it, you see it, but you're not living your life by it because we got bigger fish to fry right now.
Well, and guess what? Remember, this is still horticulture. We're still dealing with plants. And bottom line is rescheduling could rewrite your tax bill, which would be pretty damn cool, but it will not fix your root zone IPM. It will not pass your compliance inspection, and it will not move a single gram across the state line for you.
Well said, bro. Is that the hook? Is that the wrap up?
I think
That's it.
Hey, all right, everybody.
We're out of here,
Thank
dude.
you so much. It's always a pleasure. Until next time, from the Jug Den, we'll see you soon. Peace.
Love you guys. Peace.